And I think that's what's so interesting. Like, it was actually because Max got like around like a blue level person who was like saying, well, why wouldn't you just list a company? Why wouldn't you just make it, this much bigger? And why wouldn't you just, go there? And who are the biggest competitors? And why don't we just go buy them? And it's just that whole different simplistic mindset, which is what Sapphire Circle is all about. And I know even for, those who aren't on the call that might be kind of listening in, this is the critical thing about looking at future wealth. I want to share this as a bit of a story as well, because I think there's some really, really interesting things that are happening in the world at the moment. And we're seeing kind of history being made all around us at the moment. Here's a little story about Jeff Bezos. I mean, like before, if someone was a billionaire, that was like a big deal. I mean, like for most people in the world, a millionaire is a big deal. Billionaire is a big deal. Here, he makes $9 billion in 2 days. I mean, just because of his shares in Amazon, right? So now, and this is, by the way, this is just like beginning of this week, right? April 27th. So here, like he's actually, his wealth has gone up. It actually hit 100 billion in February. So between the time we started the Sapphire Circle and today, which has been 4 months, because we only started in January, actually it was really February, but like he's actually been going up by like about, $8 to $10 billion per month at the moment. That's the rate of growth, which is just kind of mind-boggling, right? But it's because it's all about future potential of Amazon, right? And how much Amazon is just growing. And, it's really crazy. We were talking about this the other day. I was speaking to Danny and Jess, and I was saying, hey, like what would happen if you actually gave like a 20% hike on your customers, right? Like going from $99 to $119, all you're doing is adding $20. You're just adding $20 for every customer. Well, when you've got 100 million customers, that's $2 billion with one thing you do. So multipliers is everything, right? So like Sapphire is all about multipliers. It's like, how do you create a multiplier? And then you just have enough of those that the leverage becomes really massive. And then from there, everything starts to shift, right? And it's not about how do you add more value, because most people, by the time they get to emerald level, they've figured out a value. They just haven't figured out how to really kind of like create viral multipliers off the back of it. So this year, I'm going to drop that in here. This, just a really, that's a super duper important point for everyone as well, which is basically definitely the whole advantage of scale, or the whole concept of economies of scale. That idea of economies of scale being like, if you've got a bigger factory, you can make things cheaper, right? Or you can make things more efficient. It just is no longer the case, right? Because there's so many different ways now to actually get people what they want without needing to go out and build a big factory, right? So then it's like, well, then what's the actual barrier to entry of someone else coming on board, right? What is at the end of the day the magic sauce that makes other people say, well, we can't compete with that anymore? And if you take the likes of Uber, take the likes of Airbnb, their magic sauce, the one thing which is basically their biggest competitive edge, is their platform. It's the fact that they've got a platform that just gets to a critical mass, and then no one else can really compete, and they become number one in that particular area, right? So platform is one way to do it, where you've just got like, more interlinks. And that's the network effect, right? That every single time you add another one in, it becomes so much more valuable to something which is already there and interconnected than someone trying to start up from scratch. So it's either going to be platform or it's going to be community. And that's, again, multiply and magnify, platform, community, right? It's like, it's going to be, well, you just got such a strong community, for someone else to try and create a community from scratch, they might as well just come and join your community. So everyone then comes and joins it. Or like, why go and start up your own shop when you can just go into Amazon, because they've already got a platform to do it? Why go up and set up a community? You can go to Facebook, they've already got a community to do it. So it's always about doing that. And what we're seeing at the moment is we're basically seeing this massive shift. And I think this is where we're going to see all the new billion-dollar businesses. We're seeing a massive shift from the scale of platform, like one size fits all platform, like an Airbnb, or scale of community, like one global platform, like Facebook. And what we're doing is we're now going and retracting back down to fragmented communities and platforms, which are much, much more based on the actual user themselves. Right. So if you think about the difference of let's take like a WhatsApp or an Instagram, right, where it's basically a one function app. So the idea of a one function app is where it's like, well, I just do one thing with this, is take photos with it, right? And what's happened is that everyone went for a while into like one function apps. But then it got to a point where it's like, well, this isn't actually very helpful to me anymore, because I've got to go to all these different apps to do all the things I want to do. So now we're going from one function apps to one user app, like basically the app for one customer. So like an entrepreneur, Genius U, one user app. Strava, fitness, one user app. it'll do everything you need for fitness. Or, whereas you had to before go to one app to track your running, you had to go to another one, track your cycling, you had another one to see when the marathons were on, you had to go to another one to post your photos. Now it's just like one user app, which is basically everything's on that one place. So if you think about it that way, which is like, well, how do we actually create what we're doing into a one user experience? Whereas that's the only one thing you need, and you're combining all the things together. And then fundamentally, then it's like, okay, well, then that means that now you've got a whole new set of not one global community, but different user communities, and not just one big platform, but different user platforms, where it's like whatever it is that you're looking to do, there's a platform that's going to work for you specifically for who you are. And that's really where the world's actually going to be shifting in the next 5 years. And so thinking in that way, then it's much more the multiplier. And it's the same for each of you, the same way that, for Max with what he's doing, it'll be I mentioned that to him earlier, it'll be the data you're collecting across all of the different people that are using the platform to say, here's the industry standard of what your gross margin should be right now, or what your, yield per employee should be right now, or, what Scott's doing right now. It's like, across the board, it's not just the fact lots of people are actually using it, but here's all the trends going on within industry, like within property right now, or here's, all the options of where you can actually invest on the platform, but where people are investing as well. So people can then actually use all that data in a really effective way, which makes it impossible, for at least for a period of time, for others to actually come up and actually compete with you in that area. We're clearly doing that with both Entrepreneur Resource as a community and also Genius U as a platform. In both cases, like one's a magnify strategy, one's a multiply strategy, and that's why I'm growing those as two wings off the engine of EI, right? And it's just like for both of them to become billion-dollar wings off the back of it, but they can grow on their own, but with very different strategies, but both of them having a unique point of difference, which is why they can then get to critical mass, and then why go elsewhere when you can go to them, basically. Okay, let's come over. Okay, so I guess that's the slide I'd like to see, is what is your product pathway? So if we go to our one, for example, when we actually are looking at the product pathways, which we're building at the moment, we can see, that we've actually got, we've got free entry, you remember, memberships, assessments, products. Then you actually become a leader, which means you actually get new things you can do, assessment certifications. Then you become a mentor, you can do new things, micro degrees, become a city leader. Then you become a global partner. And these are the 4 levels that we actually have people at that then actually allow them to do things. And the reason this becomes really important is this then allows us to then actually have a very clear pathway of people to follow. It's like, oh, I'm at this level, then I can move up to the next level, then I can move up to the next level, and they can see where they're going as they go. So in your case, I'd be saying, well, look, get yourself basically that product pathway. This is what we're talking about right now. And you could say, well, then, because if there's no actual real, if it doesn't actually have a ring to it or a reason for being, then it actually makes it very difficult to then roll anything off it, right? Like Wealth Migrate has got a very, very clear sense to it, which then allows Scott to have, other wealth things that link off the back, like Wealthy Coin or Wealth Academy or Wealth University or all these different elements, right? And similarly, with Education Angels, it's like, right? And if you actually, if I saw a company where that company was called Future Flow, and where I saw that basically the whole concept of future flow is that your value is in your future flow, right? It's like everything's in your future flow. It's like everything about the capital value of your business. We all know value, a business is only as much as valuable as its future cash flows, or its discounted future cash flows. So, and the idea of future flow also kind of flows into the fact that, everything you're doing is actually linking to the future as well. Then managing David, what I'd say, which is really, really important, is you can't be thinking about just having one day in one and one day another. Like if I had to think like that, I'd never get anything done. It'd be impossible. I couldn't imagine it, right? Like trying to run all the different businesses and do all the coaching and mentoring and do everything that I do by somehow dividing it up like a day for each chunk. So be really clear about the difference of how you're actually coordinating your team and the flow of that team when it comes to basically blocks of, I would call it initiative, but another word for initiative is worry, which is like when you actually worry about stuff, when you actually do stuff or make things happen, which is basically, or probably a better word is concern, like blocks of concern. It's like when you actually say this is a problem or this is something that needs to be solved, compared to blocks of activity, right? So like the difference of blocks of initiative and like when things get initiated and blocks of activity is blocks of initiative need to have kind of like a very, very clear vertical segmentation, right? Which basically means that it's when things basically go in parallel, right? So for example, like by having Mondays, which is my metal day, which is my finance days, it means there's a very clear vertical across all businesses then Monday's the only day I look at all the numbers. Right. So that by doing that, I have a finance meet. And I even have a finance meet where I bring the finance managers of all the different companies together. Like, we just did all end of month payments last week. And I had the Genius U, I had like Entrepreneurs Resource, I had Entrepreneurs Institute. If I had another 5 companies, I'd have them all there as well. And everyone's all coordinated. Everyone knows best practice. They're all working on it together. They know what we're paying, when we're paying, how we're doing all that stuff. If there's a new change in the policies, they all know at the same time as well. So you don't need to have multiple meetings with everyone in different finance meetings in different places. It all happens at one place. Similarly, when we're actually going through something like, like development work, we'll bring on the people that are relevant to that one in that vertical across all businesses, and everyone will then be able to focus at that and get that done. And it means everything can move in parallel without you having to kind of wait, like everyone's waiting for you, because it all happens in that one particular day. Similarly, on a second day, like, what a day is when you're actually saying, right, this is when I look across everything. Am I on purpose? Is everything on purpose across everything? I look at your team charter, look at like, are we on track with everything in terms of like, are we missing the big picture stuff because we're solving the small stuff, right? And putting that time aside. You don't need a lot of time. Like if I take Mondays, my medal time on a Monday is a maximum of 2 hours. It's not like I spend the whole Monday on medal stuff. But I have my, finance meeting, right, which is going to be there like on that Monday, right? I have basically, my timing of when I meet up with Sandra, right, which is on a Monday, right, which is all my metal stuff, right, pretty much on that day, right? That's like 2 hours worth of stuff. The rest of the time, I'll be focusing at basically, in fact, I do a lot of my kind of metrics on on the different projects, right? So checking in with the different project leaders and different things that I'm interested in, but that will change over time. And if I have a meeting, if I have a speaking engagement on the Monday, that's great, right? It's like the whole Monday can be like an event. That's fine too. But I'll still make sure I actually have those sessions, even if it's in the morning or in the afternoon, like with the finance team, right? So it's actually knowing, okay, we've got metal on the Monday, water on the Tuesday. And I always, and I like, while I say to other people, hey, try something else out, I've yet to find someone who's actually figured out a better rhythm than the one we do, right? Where Monday is metal, which is all about the how. And then Tuesday is the water, which is all about the why, and then Wednesday is the wood, which is all about the what. And I just don't even bother about, hey, let's create this or create that if it's not a Wednesday. I'll put it in my diary to say, like, on Wednesday I want to cover this particular thing, but it'll always be knowing that's going to happen. Fire is going to be the who on the Thursday, and then Friday is always going to be the when I go for the schedule. So I've got lots of stuff I need to schedule and talk to the team, but they know to talk to me about on the Friday, and that's when I have my meet on that as well. So having basically every day that you're blocking out, when am I focusing at the initiative side to do this, to say, here's the creative part of what needs to be happening, and I'm going to have the conversations on that day, as opposed to metal and so on each day. You need to do that in terms of where you physically locate yourself then to say, here's where I'm going to spending more time with one company or with another company. Look for as many things you can do where you actually bring the people who actually have things in common together. So if we have like development work together, we do it all on the same day. When we go through our 3 I's to solve things, we'll do that on our Wednesday, which is the what day. And if we then say, hey, you know what? The stuff we're trying to solve in Entrepreneurs Institute, it actually requires some of the people in the Genius U team as well. We'll bring them into that meeting on that day, and we'll schedule it ahead of time so they're doing that too, so that I'm not basically someone. So at no point, whatever you do, if you've got multiple businesses, blue level, never be the bridge. Never be the one that is the one that has information that no one else has, which means that the only way for this person over here to know what's happening over here is you got to be the one that tells them. Right? So at yellow level, you're the bridge all the time, right? Yellow level, you know everything and no one else does. But if you're at that level of blue, it never works, because it means that you have to be everywhere. Whereas if you never have to be anywhere, because whatever needs to be done is other people in the team that are doing it, then you can show up wherever you need to show up. And if I don't show up for any meetings in a week, it's not like anything stops, because everyone's already got responsibilities. And the answer to that is always be, am I that person or am I not? Well, check it out at the end of every meeting. What are the actions that come off the meeting? And are you making sure that all those actions are not dependent on you? Because some people, they'll go into the meeting, it's like, yep, okay, we'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that. And they just take all the actions, and then they're wondering why they're so busy. But if every meeting you go into, there's going to be actions off it, but they're all other people that are taking all the actions, and you're not taking any of them, right? That's your goal, right? So you actually say, right, who's going to do this, who's going to do this? You leave every meeting, and everyone's up with what they're doing, and your only job is next week to check in and see how they're doing on their actions, right? Did they do them? Did they not do them? But you're not the one having to do those things yourself. And then the goal is to say, who's the person that's checking in on those actions in the future as well, which is going to come back down to Scott's point. The reason he's got someone like Lyndon saying, well, what do you think our number one thing is that we're doing is, frankly, it's because Scott's most likely saying, I need this, I need this, I need this. And they're like, but I thought I was doing this instead. And so Lynn's like, well, you tell us what you want to do. And the best thing for Scott to do is like, no, you tell me, right? It's kind of like, you tell me what it is that we're doing, and I'll tell you if I think that's the right thing or not. Or else it means that everyone's just, again, waiting for Scott to tell them what to do. But in your case, it's the same thing, Angie, like to say, how do I make sure that I'm getting the right people in place? And you'll see where the gaps are, because if you're getting someone to do something, they're clearly not doing it, right? And we always have a green, yellow, and red light on everything we do, which basically means that if there's something that was meant to be done, it's a green light because the next week it's going to be done. If the next week it's not done, it becomes a yellow, right? Yellow basically means like we said we're going to get it done. We thought we'd be able to get it done. It didn't get done. So if it didn't get done, for the person who's actually owning it, what was the reason it didn't get done? They might say, well, it's for this reason, but I'm going to sort it out this next level. Well, guess what? It still goes yellow. And by the next week, it's going to go and be done, and it's going to be off the line. But if it goes for another week after they've already had kind of one out, and now it's another week and they still haven't done it, it goes red. If it goes red, it kind of means, okay, you said it was going to get done. It still didn't get done. This is red light now, right? It's like 3 strikes and you're out. 3 strikes, it clearly means you're not up for the job, or 3 strikes means you're not actually working it out in some particular way to get it done. And everyone, guess what, gets it done. Because if by that 3rd week it's still not done, the wrong person's in the wrong place doing the wrong job, right? Unless they say, no, it is going to get done, but here's why it got delayed. There's a real valid reason for it. And everyone goes, okay, we'll leave it yellow for another week, right? Or we might even say, well, it still should have been done, so it's still going to turn it red. Let's get it done by the week after. And then your job is just to be the traffic coordinator. And these traffic lights, they're all basically things that then actually can show up on one massive dashboard, and then you've got all the details there as well. And I'm going to show you how we do that with our Scrum stuff as we go as well. But that's the key. The difference of blocks of initiative is they're clear verticals. They happen in parallel. Generally, blocks of activity, right? These are clear horizontals, which means that they're kind of things that, it's not like, I can do this basically with all of my different companies at the same time. But it's like, this is something that actually kind of will work across the board. So like I have to be at an event, for example, and at the event it's horizontal across everything, right? Everyone's going to get involved on that one day to all be part of it, right? But it's time-based, right? And it's in series, which means everyone's going to rely on everyone else to do it, but we actually have a beginning and end to that as well, right? So another way to think of this is think of blocks of initiative being almost like where we have a promotion, where we have a process, which means it's ongoing, right? So it's ongoing flow, ongoing rhythm, right? As opposed to this one here, which is more like a promotion, where I'll put myself somewhere specific for a period of time, which has basically got a beginning and end, right? It's like, yeah, we know when it starts, we know when it's finished, and it's over. I'm off to do something else. I know it's temporary, right? But I'll put myself there because it's where I want to be specifically for that thing that needs to be done. And it'll always be a promotion, which is either one of the 3 E's. Either it will be to expand. I'm putting myself there to expand something, or to enhance, which means it's not leverage its value, or enjoy. I'm just doing it for fun, right? So it's one of those 3 things. But fundamentally, that is a really super important thing to interlink the 2 together. And everyone in the team is the same thing. They know what's temporary. They know what's permanent. They know what's in an ongoing rhythm. And they know what basically they're getting into to finish and then get out of it. And then it's done. And it's okay to be in a place where you have a really high workload for a few weeks, but you know it's going to be over because you set your timeframes to get it done as well. Now, if you do that in terms of like on Max's side, like what do you outsource, what do you not? This all comes down to basically, again, what are we trying to achieve as you go? So sprints allows you to do this. I'm going to walk through just with GeniusU how we implemented our sprints and how they work. So and I'll give you an example of what we're doing to World Game right now. So basically within GeniusU, we actually first of all put this in here as part of our culture. We said in our culture, let's have a look here. All this whole thing, like we want global, entrepreneurial, natural, this is GENIUS, this is our culture here. But we actually walked through this, like, natural, follow a clear rhythm. So we said, okay, we want to have a really annually, monthly, weekly, now daily rhythm and set ahead of time. It's really, really clear. And this is where it's actually all about basically setting up our mindset. I already went through the 3 I's with you guys before, but actually setting up the Scrum methodology, right? Which is basically using kind of what all the top tech companies already use to put sprints together, to design them out, to really make sure everything's now down into a very, very specific step. And any one of us building a technology company is definitely the way to go right now. But we link the whole thing together to our promotion plans, right? So we'll put a promotion plan together, which will then link to sprints. So I'll give you an example of exactly what that looks like right now, right? If we were to go to the promotion plan on the World Game. So this is where we said, right, the World Game is a existing like sprint we're doing right now, existing promotion. The way that the World Game works is, first of all, we start by getting everyone focused together. where we say, right, we're going to get all these different partnerships. We said we want to solve how we actually get all the partners working together. So this aligns all the activities of the EI and Genius U partnership teams into one promotion, brings all our activities together. It links to our bigger purpose, which is the whole concept of the World Game as well. And it reestablishes revenue streams across all of the things we're doing. So it's got money targets as well, right? Customer problem is basically our customers looking for a way to increase their profit and purpose. Company problems, multiple teams focusing at multiple groups of mentors while also having multiple product ranges. So they're all different areas. How do we actually bring them all into a series as opposed to all parallel, which is where they're at? Let's bring them all into one promotion that actually allows us to solve certain things like integrating B1, G1, which we had a call with just Paul and Sami this morning. How do we integrate all that stuff? How do we make sure we have all the right commission structures? How do we make sure everyone's got the same onboarding process? Let's all work together in one team to do it. Solutions play the World Game, right? We'll get everyone together. We'll play it as with Buckingham's Fuller. We'll launch it on the 10th of June in Brisbane. It'll be 6 months to the 70th anniversary of UN Human Rights, which is in 10th of December. And we'll basically have everyone play the game or come on it together. Micros everyone does will show how to use Genius U to track their earnings and givings. We'll launch it just like EMC last year when we had 20,000 people join it. We'll aim to get 7,000 to start with, and we'll give everyone a whole pathway on how they'll actually join and become part of it, right? Now on the promotion side, I'll show you two sides. I'll show you first of all the promotion side, where we actually then put together, Michelle, we said, who's in charge of this? We said, well, here's the team. Like Michelle's leading it, so she's in head. We've got like Suraj, Genius U, right? He's going to be in charge of Entrepreneur Leaders. Kathleen, Genius U, in charge of Entrepreneur Leaders. Jess, Entrepreneurs Institute, in charge of event partners. Radka, one of our partners, coming on in charge of master trainers. Danny, like Entrepreneurs Institute, part of Global Partners. So it's cross-company that we're doing this. So we have everyone involved. We had basically Michelle, who basically set up, first of all, the World Game on Basecamp. So she said, okay, everyone, we're on. We set up a rhythm. Every Monday, we're meeting up at 2:00. Right? We've got all these different people now all communicating with each other, all the key things, all who needs to do what off the back of it. So the whole thing's up and running. We put up a landing page, which looks like this. So on the landing page, people can already jump in and play the World Game, right? So here is the first landing page, pre-launch. You can come in and you can join. It's free to join. You can upgrade if you want to as well. You can tell us how you want to upgrade. And so off the back of this, linking it all together, here's the different steps you can take, free or join. We went out just at our EXE event, and then we're going out tomorrow with the big launch. We have a kind of like a pre-launch when we're going to get out people, and then we're going to go out to the main launch, right? So all of that is also on here where we actually can see revenue targets. We can see the schedule of what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. We put all of this into one slide deck. So a slide deck looks like, so you can see here, the slide deck, where we said on the slide deck, okay, here's the World Game. Like, can we show on a very small number of slides, in this case, there's 16 slides, the whole process of the World Game? Here's what it is. Here's how you play it. Here's more detail on Bucky and what he said about the World Game. Here's why you would want to join, right? 10 times your income, 10 times your impact. You can compete, you can collaborate. We're going to track people by city, by circles, your own global goals. Here's how we're going to keep score. We're going to use Genius Dollars as our own virtual currency. So anyone who actually puts products on there, they can earn virtual currency. Everyone who does activity on Genius U can earn currency. Measure impacts. Here's how we're going to play. Here's the process. You join, you do the micro degree, you upgrade if you want to. And then 4 ways to play, depending on which one of these levels you're at, right? So we walked it through and said, here's how we do it. We use this for the team. We use this for the partners. We said, here's so everyone can see, here's the why, the what, the how, right? So it's all on here as well. Right, and then it goes through basically, and every time we've shared this, people have got, and we've only shared it 3 times so far in smaller groups, just to test what people thought and how they thought of it. Right, we gave them this link to go to. People then actually, if they got excited by this, they then basically filled it out. Here's the registration list as of today, before we've actually even done the pre-launch. So this is like a pre-launch. So you can see when we go in here onto Salesforce, that what happens is we track all the people that are coming through. And so let me just open it up again. Let me just get it. Here it is, the World Game. Okay. So we get a list of all the people that are registered. And you can see, so we've got 140 people already who registered. And you can see for each person that registers, they're all wanting to play the game, but then also at what level. So some people say, I want to be part of Genius Entrepreneur Certification, right? I want to be part of the B1, G1. I want to be flow consultant or whatever, like the different people that allow us then to follow up with them. Different for iLab, right? We have this also for people who want to be event partners. City leaders, right? We've got people already who want to be city leaders in Preston, Singapore, Manchester, Warsaw, Vilnius, Wellington, Sydney, Bournemouth, Croydon, San Jose. Like these are all over the place already. And it's really just before we've even got started. So we know this is going to really take off. And on the marketing side, we've got all these different people that are wanting to do stuff with us already. But what we basically then did was said we need to actually match this on the development side because a lot of development work to do as well. So the first step on the development side is we do the same thing. We put it on slides. So here's our slides for the development side. We say, this is just internal. So it's only for the people internally who see this. Development plan. So put a plan together for the year, right? So basically, what's the summary of the plan? Who are our avatars? Everything's based on the same 4 people you saw in the marketing plan. Each one of them are going to require certain things in order for them to actually be able to play the game or even to use all these tools. So we have in here, like partner Priscilla, here's what she wants to be able to do. So these are called stories. So within Scrum, they're going to have basic stories. And there's a good book if you haven't read it yet, which I recommend even if you're not doing tech stuff, right? Which is the Scrum doing twice. I know I've recommended this to you guys before to read as well. But basically this is from the inventor of Scrum, right? Jeff Sutherland. So this one here basically goes through what are the stories that someone says, I have an exciting way to do this. I have a simple way to do this. Like, I want to be able to do these things. That's the outcome of what we're trying to create, right? So at every level we do that. And then we actually then break that down into our sprints, whereas 2 weeks to actually deliver on a certain number of the project pieces that we want to do. And we've got every one of these sprints that are in here. So we can actually go through and say, right, with the World Game, we have got basically to achieve all of this 3 sprints, which is our 6th, 7th, and 8th sprint of the year. We want to have mentors using all of our information on there. We want to have B1, G1, and Genius Dollars integrated. We have an onboarding and micro degree in place for the big launch. And so the whole development team then focuses at these 3 things together, or together at the same time. We have a meeting on the Monday when we brief them on it. We don't use this as the base. This base here explains the detail of what this means. This sprint means we're going to be able to do these certain things. So we take these basic things and we take it from this high level plan. And the system we use is Confluence, right? So this is what Confluence looks like. It's part of Atlassian, right? So they've used all these agile tools now. This allows me to map it out with the team. So I can go to, let's say, for example, this one here, which is our sprint 5. I can say, here's what's going to happen, the goals, the upgrades, the store, everything like that. There's a video that I put in, which is what the team wants to see of what's the vision. So we call them vision videos. Here's what I want to see the whole system be able to do. And it's going to be able to do these particular things. Then we break it down and we say, right, user story, right? As a mentor leader, I want to see it's like every one of these user stories are in here. And you can see each one of them as you go down. I'll make it a bit bigger here. But each one as it goes down actually goes into the detail where on the one hand, it will say something like, as a mentor, I want to be able to see a list of my circle members with a link to their profile and dashboard that I can sort by location, but most active on GeniusU or most active in my circle. This then leads to basically this here, which is the design. So our designer, SY, has put this design together where she's interpreted what I've said. And she's actually said, well, let's put a wireframe together where, like, based on what we just had there, here's what it's going to look like, right? Here's the mental dashboard. Here's circles. I want to see exactly what he said. Like, what's the stats? How much has changed by last month, last year, or time? Like, what if, like, for each event, how much money you got generated by all my events? I want to be able to view all my events to see them all as well. If I click on view all, I'm going to see all my events, how many more people came on board, how many visits, how many interactions. I want to see all that as well. So she's wide framed the whole thing out. And that's like the second level of Confluence, but links go back to Confluence as well, right? So it's all on there. And then if I go back to, let me just go back to where we were on Confluence. Oops, I think that was the first one on Confluence. Okay, I'll find it again. I think I closed it. Okay, so it's here. If I then basically say, well, how well is that tracking? Then we use Jira to actually track it. So on Jira, we can look at any particular project, like, a launch of a particular, program or something like that. And we can see, on here on Kanban board, what needs to be done, what's in progress, what's for review, what's gone live, what's completed, right? So you can see all the pieces across the board on any one of these. And on Confluence, so this is Jira. And on Confluence, if I go back to the Confluence here, if I'm on one of these, I can see not just the wireframe, I can actually see where there is a particular Jira ticket, which I think we started doing from this like sprint 6. I can go down and I can see, it's not on this one yet. I think it must be on these ones. So as soon as it goes into development, then any particular, this one's not one of them. Any particular thing that's here will have Tom, who, as you can see here, will then put the notes down. Oops, it's on this side, where I can actually go and see this one's done, right? I can actually see the Jira ticket in Jira on this one here, where you can see exactly what he wrote, what had to be done, who did it, like when it was completed, right? And then you can actually go and actually see the end point of it as well, right? So this basically makes the whole thing so rock solid, because it means at any one point, you've got a very, very clear line all the way through from what is it we want to get achieved through to when's it getting achieved by, through to it's actually getting done. And you can then do this across multiple teams. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges, is that for at the moment, unless you're doing this, you can't have a remote team very easily. But right now we have got Jan doing this. He's in, where's Jan? Jan's in Ukraine. So he's in Ukraine. We've got Tom, who's based in London right now. We've got SY, who's based in Germany. Right? So like there's not any one person in our team who's in the same location. They're all over the world, but they're all basically running through this together. And every single day they're having a stand-up meeting where they're just checking in on are we on track or not? We've got 12 tickets to do. Have we hit those 12 tickets or not? Is the story actually complete? And then they then do a presentation every following Monday to say, here's what we actually completed on. That can then go live, and then it goes live. So the whole thing is just this ongoing flow, which then works really, really well. And then at any one point, when I don't have to worry about any of this detail, to be honest, I'm basically just having the conversation at the high level together with the team to say, right, are we getting it done? Now, to the whole point that Max said, should he be the Scrum Master? Definitely not. Tom is our Scrum Master, who's the person who needs to be someone from a technical point of view that's actually going to track the team. There may be someone in your development team that can be the Scrum Master, but the Scrum Master definitely needs to be the key person that is in the team. Your designer could be who does the wireframes. That could be someone who's outside the team, right? You can contract that person. Your developers definitely can be outsourced. All of our developers are outsourced now, all our best guys. And the way we got them all was through Upwork. So we went to Upwork, we went and actually put down some ads specifically for people that were good with Ruby on Rails. And we got lots of people that applied. We then basically tested them to find out how good they are. We chose the best people, and then we then had our key team. So key team always within your development team is going to be always to make sure that you have one person, let me close this one for now, that we have one person who is your Scrum Master, who is the most important person, because that person, fundamentally, when you get bigger, you're going to need a product manager as well, who is, I'm doing some of the job at the moment of the product manager because I'm getting very, very involved in the development side. But a product manager is the one who would actually be the one who would oversee the client and everything that they're doing. Then you'd have the Scrum Master. So I don't think you need a product manager right now. You could be the product manager to say, what do I want this product to do? Here's the kind of stories that I'm creating. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do this. The Scrum Master is the tech guy who knows how long it takes to do things and then can actually work with the team to make that happen. And then you have your designer who needs to be able to do the wireframes. And then you've got your coders who are going to do the coding, right? They're your engineers. And you can outsource this one. You want the first two to be in-house. And the first thing to say, who is going to be my Scrum Master? And it could actually be one of your existing developers who could step up to that. That's why I'm with Tom. Tom originally was a developer, and now he stepped into the Scrum Master role, and he's loving it because he now can take on a more strategic role, and he knows how all the pieces fit together as you go as well, right? That's the most important thing before you start getting into anything more. And so I think you can definitely outsource and go into Upwork and find the right people that you need. On the answer on the $2 million valuation, what I'd say around that is I really believe that by you looking at your pathway and saying, well, if we're right now, doing basically, a couple of $1 million in revenues, we're doing, like 20% profit or whatever it is. And you say, okay, well, actually, like at this point already, if we were going to actually really treat this like a tech company and say this is a tech company that could grow, and say, well, then on this base, if we're actually saying just as rule of thumb, if it's a $2 million value, if it's $2 million in revenues today, and we're actually then going to build this up to what we think could be, a 10 times growth, but let's just call it like $10 million by next year, and more like $30 million a year after, right? Then you can actually say, well, on this basis, $2 million revenue, we're looking at a valuation of around about $20 million. Someone bringing in $2 million is about 10% of the business at this point, right? Someone will probably negotiate for more. They'll want 20% or something, but that's the rough number of where you're at. When we got to net of like over $2 million, we're already at valuation of 20 million. I'll give you our pitch decks that we have of how we went out to raise the funding, because we had them on earlier Sapphire calls as well. So you can actually then use that and say, right, I'm going to put together a really clear pitch deck, which is here's basically the pathway we're going forward. So we had the conversation about, what do we want, like, the big goal of it to be. When you look at something like the pitch deck for, oops, let me just get it out. Hello. me try again. My search has gone really crazy on my Mac. I think it's time for me to get a new match here. Okay, here we go. So something like this, you know, like it makes you have to force yourself through to think, well, what's this whole thing going to look like in the future? So knowing what's the problem and the solution, which you've got really, really clear on your side, then saying what's the current growth and future growth, right? So if you say, well, here's what the growth has been, here's what it's going to be, right? It's like, and just putting a number right down actually really helps you to really think, what's my future flow? What's it going to look like? Then from there, like anything about the current, like the experience of like, you know, current reach business model, who's in the management team. Right? So you're mapping out the different kind of fundamental, what makes us special, what's our big goal of what we're trying to achieve, what is our mission, right? Once you pull this together, then people can see, oh, not only how well you've done so far, but where you're planning to go with or without them. And then from that point of view, that's when they say, well, then I'll come on board and actually be part of this as well, right? These become really, really valuable templates to start using, where you're not then depending on them to tell you how to do things. You're saying, here's where I'm going. And we want money to actually go to this level. And we'll share all this stuff with you about how we're raising the funding at the moment for Genius U. But off the back of it, these become the most important documents. You'll notice that in everything that I've talked about so far, whether it is the promotion plan, World Game, we have a slide deck. Whether it is the development plan, internal, we have a slide deck. Whether it's investors, we have a slide deck. And like each one, it's like, are we articulating clearly enough where we're at and where we're going in such a way that we've made the case for anyone to really get it, that they go, I get this, and now I'm on this path with you. If you don't have that predictability or that certainty, here's where we're going, then everyone else won't fall in lockstep behind you to make it happen as well, right? So like that's the critical part to do it. Then you can then say, and this is how we justify evaluation, or this is how we're going to develop our development plan off the back of that as well. So super duper key thing here is, I know you guys know this, right? Think it, do it, review it, right? It's like, just like get it down, but get it down in a way that becomes super duper clear to you. And the process of doing that makes all the difference in each one of these different areas as well. So on this whole thing on top 3 KPIs, before I just get Scott, and I talked to Scott a bit about this, and we're going to go a bit over in this call if you guys are okay with that, because it took a little bit longer going through that than I was planning. But what I want to do, if you're okay with doing this, is like spend about 10, 15 minutes with Scott walking through like what are the kind of key people and what are the key KPIs you believe they need. And when let me share with you, first of all, before I go through that, one of the most important things is the fact that whatever you come up with, a really important part is how you get the team to come up with this as well. I'll tell you how we do this. If I go to something like our Genius U team charter, and we have this for all of our teams, we walk through together, first of all, who's in charge of what, like who's taking ownership in which particular area. So we have that already in here, which then links to the key promotions. So everyone already is really clear, what are my conditions of success? Like who's in charge of the World EdTech platform? That's Anthony in charge of that. Who's in charge of on-purpose entrepreneurs delivering to the UN goals? That's Suraj. Who's in charge of the world's leading learners partner community? That's Michelle. So everyone's really, really clear. Even I've got an ownership here on the investors. That's me. So every one of us has an ownership in a particular area. And then off the back of that ownership and off the back of what we're looking to achieve financially, right? Like in terms of our forecasts, and also based on the promotions that we're actually going to run, and everyone actually going to be involved in one part of that promotion as well. And that all linking back to our flight deck. Based on all of that, we then get every one person to put together their own personal compass. So this is what a personal compass looks like. Here's Suraj's, right? This is his ownership, right? He's put these pictures in. He's done all of this. Here's his purpose. Here's his profile. Here's what his values are. He's got very, very clearly, here are my roles and responsibilities for the next quarter. Here are my top priorities. I'm going to continue to grow Genius U services by engaging top partners. I'm going to focus on delivering results to services and clients. I'm going to launch a leader funnel for Evergreen campaign. He's got metrics across each one of them. He defines what those metrics are to actually achieve on that as well. He also goes through and says, here's what I said I was going to do in the first quarter. Here's what I actually did or didn't do, right? And so actually reports on that as well. He has his top milestones. What did he achieve in the first milestone? Grew online sales to 120,000 per month, right? Generated 50,000 a month in training, supported completion of Series A round. Number 2, achieved, so these are his 3 milestones that link to his priorities, right? So he's got his milestones and he's got his wins and challenges. Like what were the toughest things that he needs help on? What are the wins that he had as well, right? And stuff like, going off on a family holiday, right, was one of his wins, right? So everyone's integrating this to their entire life. And overall, what's the big learnings, big goals going ahead, right? Minimize times and cores, build robust services, shift the team focus. He's owning it 100%. So at any one point, if I'm telling Suraj to do something that does not sit inside what I've already like reviewed and seen for the whole quarter. If I suddenly go to Suraj and say, Suraj, I need to do this, he is totally entitled to come back to me and say, hey, Roger, it just isn't part of my plan this quarter. Come back next quarter, right? I've already told you I'm doing this stuff. And I'm going to say, fair call, right? Like he's defined his role, and it actually allows us, with everyone having defined their role, to know for the whole quarter what we're all going to do together, right? So it's like he would never come to me to say, Roger, what should I be measuring? Or Roger, what should my top priorities be? Because the moment he's doing that, guess whose problem it becomes? It becomes my problem for me to tell him what to do. Which is why, while I can walk through with you, what the top KPIs should be for your team, the last thing you should be doing is going back to them to tell them what the KPI should be. They should be telling you what the KPI should be based on their ownerships and based on what they're in charge of. The most important thing is what have you designed them in terms of what they actually each are meant to be owning in order to give you those KPIs in the first place. So I just wanted to give you that as a precursor. But like, Scott, I'd love you to walk through with your top senior level, like those 7 top people, just from what you heard from me, what each of them actually own. And then we can go through a bit around what should be the kind of KPIs they should be giving you based on what they're owning right now. Hey, Scott.
So, funny enough, while you were talking, I was writing it down.
Okay, cool.
Okay, no particular order. So, Yaku is effectively strategic operations. So, what he's owning is our scalable systems. So, Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, all the systems that you need to be able to scale, basically.
Okay.
Then Michiel owns the supply side. So having at least 2 live properties per country live at any one time. So, at the end of the day, the due diligence, the quality of the product, the partner, everything. And that leads, then Lyndon effectively is doing the PMO role. So that's the coordination between the different teams, including the country CEOs, which is the demand side. So it's sales, basically.
Yeah.
Gavin is the CTO, so the technology and the platform. And Lo is the basically CFO, so all the finance and compliance.
Okay. So at the moment, yeah, is that it? The 5?
I'm just double checking. I think I've got it. Lo, Yaku, London, Gavin. Yeah, that's it.
And then how would you define yourself in there?
Funding. So funding, strategy, and team.
Okay. All right. Okay. And where would you say at the moment, like, because you said, hey, I want there to be revenue focus. If that is Lyndon's job right now, where do you think it's breaking down?
Yeah, good question. As in terms of the company. So the challenges in terms of the company, there's been quite a lot of finger pointing between the country CEOs, whose role it is, etc. So what we got very clear on only recently in the last 2 months was that it's the country CEOs accountability, with Lyndon effectively holding the country CEOs accountable.
And why do you think the CEOs themselves are not able to generate the demand you want?
This is like online feedback and nasty with your tutor. The reason being is that our systems aren't in place. So when I get to the front line, they can't get Salesforce to work. They can't pull the database. Like just the report you just pulled now on the World Game on the, I don't know how many you said signed up, 174 where they were. It's not easy for them. Yeah. So I think we've got to systemize all the systems so that they can actually do stuff. That's the one thing. And then the other thing, there's still too many top-down controls. So yes. Whatever it is, but there are too many controls versus giving them the freedom to run at the front line.
And let me ask you, when you are when you're having these guys connect with each other, do they like at what point in a particular week would Lyndon and the country CEOs be speaking, for example, to Gavin and the tech platform?
Sure. I don't know all the answers to this. So Kevin, so Lyndon's running a bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks PMO with every country CEO.
Yes.
And I'm not actually sure whether they're invited to, it's every 2 weeks we do a demo on the tech development and what's happening. But I don't think there's a planned rhythm where they're actually getting involved with country CEOs. I could be wrong, but I'm not aware.
Yeah. So the missing bits, which is why it's really difficult for them to actually move forward, is at the moment your entire business is run kind of like the old-fashioned way, which is fundamentally in series, right? So when things are run in series, everyone blames everyone, right? Because basically, tech guys say, well, if we had more money, we'd be fine, but we don't have more money because we don't have more revenue coming through the platform. And you're saying, well, I can't raise money if there isn't more revenue coming from the platform, so put more revenue in the platform. And then like the country CEOs are saying, well, we can't put more revenue in the platform because there aren't enough product or because the system's not easy to use. And everyone just blames everyone. I mean, it just goes round and round in circles, right? And in the past, that used to work because everyone sat in one office and everyone basically every day just kind of like, said, well, what's wrong? And then let's fix it. And everyone's moving slow enough. Today, things are moving too quickly to do that. And so this is where it's about how do we get things to run in series, right? When you're running in series, right, then basically everyone...
Run in parallel, you mean?
Sorry, parallel, yeah. So when everything is run in parallel, right, then everyone basically owns their part of the solution, right? Because there's consequences of not doing it. So what that looks like is, let's say, for example, what we're doing with the World Game, we're bringing, like in the past, and we're doing it for different parts of the business, but if you were to say, right, we're actually going to run a promotion, right, over the next 3 months, which is actually to deliver X number of people who are going to be coming on board the platform to deliver the X amount of revenue going into these particular projects. And that's going to be the promotion plan. And then you actually have a weekly promotion meeting, which is cross-department. It's when the tech person comes on board and says, what do I need to do to make this happen? It's when the sales, the country CEOs are on to say, what are they going to do in terms of their targets? It's when you've got basically Yako coming on board to do the scalable system side. It only needs to be a 30-minute meeting. But with everyone's coming on board and you're running things by milestone, everything gets done because no one's going to show up like a week or 2 weeks later on red lights saying, well, I said I was going to get this done for you guys. And everyone knows what the priorities are because it's much, much more important to know what they are at that point as well to actually achieve that particular thing you're looking to achieve because they're all on together. Otherwise, what happens is the country CEO says, well, I know the tech platform's not ready. They say it's going to be ready in 2 months' time. I guess I'll just wait, right? And then it's like, but you have sales to make. It's like, yeah, but I can't make them because of this. Like they're giving themselves excuses because you don't have that in place. So that's why everything running by promotion means that things get done. The World Game will get done. When we decided to redo the event stuff all just got revamped, but it brought everyone together from how we're going to do the payment system through to how we're going to fill up the room, through to how we're going to make sure that the actual tech, app, the event app worked. Like all that stuff, they were all on it together and they felt like one team. So everyone was in a feeling of the team together is to get things done. Doing one big promotion doesn't work because then if that's not working, nothing works. Doing promotions in parallel where a number of people come on board onto one promotion and then there might be a different one. Like you might say, right, we're going to have one promotion which is specifically around, these, like around really building the European market, right? So the UK GM and the Europe GM or whatever will be on that call. And we're actually going to get them to focus at getting people on board specifically for these projects here. And we're going to make that work. Or we're going to get focused at Asia, focusing at Wealthy Coin. And then that's going to work. So you actually have multiple promotions, as you've seen, we've done multiple promotions. And you'll have some of these guys who'll be on multiple calls, but each one they need to deliver certain things too. And there's a consequence of not delivering them at that point as well. Then you've then got basically the ability for each person to then actually deliver. And there's consequence to not deliver. Whereas at the moment, everyone's working at different timeframes. So it's like one single lane where everyone's in series and there's a traffic jam. And there's probably the tech side that's a traffic jam right now. But they probably think you're the traffic jam because you're not giving them enough money to do the tech stuff, which is the typical thing that happens in a lot of tech companies that are just in series, which is why parallel is about being much more nimble and letting every part of it grow without you having to get any extra funding. It can still grow and do its own thing anyway. So first of all, just before we go into KPIs, does that make sense to you as like the importance of knowing what rhythm people are getting together and having consequence for getting stuff done in?
Yeah, look, it's completely enlightening. The only little voice in the back of my head is I just wish I could implement this in the next week. And I for some reason, it makes so much sense in theory, but it's so difficult to execute in practice. And I'm just sort of sitting here thinking, this is exactly what I want. I need to get us all to watch this video 47 times and just do it. But Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's exactly what we need to do.
The key always is to lead by example by creating one small team in one small area. That's the first thing always, right? You don't have to try and get everyone to do it all at once, because you can't move everyone and shift it all at once. But you can start by saying, okay, what would be a really critical key area, which is one of the most important areas that I want everyone to be really focused at, that I can actually create a promotion plan around, and then really focus that area. Like without just like disturbing the fact that there are some things that are working, right? There's people coming on the system, there's stuff already happening, but it's like that one thing to say, right, if we were, and for me, I really believe that in your case, it's not about trying to get everyone to do everything. It's about you actually saying, what's the real multipliable model that we're really going to use to really grow what we're doing, right? And you choosing, like if you were to choose one area where you think the demand side could grow the most effectively outside of South Africa, which country would you choose at the moment?
There's two parts to that. One is America.
Okay.
And the second one is actually right now it's re-engaging with the clients I've had for 15 years. So actually having a proper promotion plan to re-engage, bring them back on. You know, someone bought a house in London 10 years ago. It's more than doubled in value. You know, why are they not on the platform? Why don't they know us implicitly? You know, but it's that takes a proper promotion. You don't just send them an email and hope it happens.
Yeah. Let's say you did something like that, for example, right? And let's say you actually said, okay, we really want to get into basically creating a cross department team that can deliver results in a particular area. Okay. You got to re-engage in a warm list, which could be one thing you could do. But I would actually advise that the really biggest thing you're looking for here, I mean, that could be one that actually is kind of a magnified strategy because it gives you kind of quick results, right? Because they're warm. But there's a second element to this, which is really what's the multiplier which you want to be testing, which is the thing that will be most likely to bring you in funding. Because people say, oh my God, you went to basically, you know, a core group of people and you warmed them up to the level where they actually all became investors in you and they all grew. That actually is much more valuable in the long term because that's the missing piece. Too many people will look at your company at the moment and say, hey, it's just you basically going to a bunch of people you know, getting them sold into developments the way you used to do it before. You just happen to be doing it through this platform called Wealth Migrate right now. But that doesn't prove that Wealth Migrate can actually go global by having strangers meet up with developers that don't even know you and find themselves on your platform, which is where the real value of it is. It's like Airbnb starting by basically just having their own hotels and putting them on Airbnb. Like they say, that's not actually proven that you can actually grow yet. So you're still missing that proven link because you're using the old traditional sales and supply model of developments. Which is why I always said to you before, until you break up IPS separately from Wealth Migrate, as opposed to making kind of Wealth Migrate the wrapping around IPS, until you separate them out and actually have a promotion plan separately, which brings people in, builds a community, gets them on board, and then after they're on board, then they start investing in cool things. Until you have that multiplier, people aren't going to believe that this is something that actually can exponentially grow 100 times bigger, no matter how much you kind of show you're actually bringing in the business and making it work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can do both together, by the way. You can do both. You can say, right, we're going to go out there and we're actually going to re-engage our warm list. And we're also going to create this is where we talk about objectives, right? We say, right, we're actually going to take a number of objectives, which are our development objectives, right? Our development objectives we're going to re-engage our warm list. We're going to basically create a multiplier, which basically allows us to see how we go from basically a newbie through to investor on our platform. Right, and then we can actually say development is also we're going to actually have a team that is promotion focused, so that they're actually getting stuff done. Right, and so that's good development stuff. Right, and you say what's the financial objectives? And you say right, we're going to have a financial objective, which is that we're going to basically kind of like raise $2 million off the back of this for projects. Right, we're going to basically have 1,000 new people who are going to be members on our platform. We're going to have 2 new developments, which aren't even ours, which are going to be basically starting like these are just made up numbers, but basically you get the idea. You're setting numbers of what this is actually going to allow you to then do in terms of value of the system. And then you then say, okay, well, who do we need to actually put a plan like this together and work with? It's like, well, we're going to need, Jaco on the scalable system side to work on some of this. We're going to have, low to make sure we've got numbers on this. We're going to have not all the country CEOs, but maybe one or two of them involved. So the rest can keep on doing what they're doing with Lyndon. Lyndon should be on that call as well to see how we're doing this and bring it all together. We're going to have a time frame to make it all happen by. Everyone's going to know why can't we do this? Oh, because the system has this issue. Well, then why don't we do this with the system? It's like, well, because when we go out and invite people in, they don't actually have a clear value of what they're going to get when they haven't even decided what they're going to invest in yet. Well, then let's actually put these education programs in to make them have that, right? You'll work it out when you're actually saying, if we had to do this from beginning to end and treat it almost like a startup within a startup, and we actually get these things done so that we end up with a provable model. We end up with more money that's coming in. We end up with basically a team that actually gets, like, by working together, we can solve things as opposed to just think it's someone else's fault. And all of it all comes together. Then the team actually then starts working together really well. And that's exactly, you see us doing that all the time. And the things that we do is building that plan and building it that way. Because if you just give everyone KPIs, and by the way, I'd still go back to someone like Lyndon, who's overseeing things and saying, use these templates and saying, hey, everyone put together your own KPIs. What do you think you're tracking at the moment? So you still get that from them as to what they think. And then that will expose to you where the big gaps are. And even on these calls, bring that back to the next call, right? Or in 2 calls time. And we can walk through that and say, here's where the big gaps are and all of that. But that's still assuming that everyone already is working as part of an exponential business, which I don't think you have. Because in an exponential business, what you would really have, we're talking supply side, demand side, is all basically talking about what the different roles would be if you are a development company, which you are, but you want to be a tech platform, right? So you say, okay, well, then we need to have someone who's going to look after the community, right? So who's head of community, which basically are the people that are all the ones that are coming on board for free, right? And being part of this community. Who are the people who are actually going to be looking after, our clients, which are all the people that actually are coming on board, who are the investors, that want to be investors on this platform and are now starting to actually buy into this platform. Who are the people looking after our developers, right? The ones that are actually looking, not what Makhil's doing, which is just going out and looking for developments, but the developers themselves that are actually coming on your platform, right? So they actually are providing, like their details on the platform. Who's the person then who's looking after your tech? Not 2 people, not Yako and Lo separately, but just one on the tech side, right? Which is actually allowing the tech side to grow, right? And then who's the person who's looking after your team? And that's pretty much it. It's a different team that actually is. So this is the scalable tech company as opposed to the development company. And at the moment, you kind of got the 2 mixed together. But as a result of that, Gab, Makhil isn't spending a lot of time going out getting 500 developers to use your system, or Lyndon isn't spending lots of time getting out, getting a whole bunch of people into a community that then actually want to be a part of this and might take them 2 or 3 months before they invest something. He's looking for people to invest today based on a particular project of some sort, and that's a whole different deal from where you're at right now. If anything, you might have a final person who's kind of like your VIP clients, which is like your wealth. Your wealth partners and so on, which are basically more your kind of top level, which is kind of where you sit anyway. But you're separating out like the really scalable part and how you build that. Again, like I said, once you've actually gone through and got everyone to put down what they think their KPIs are, or getting Linda to tell what he thinks everyone's KPIs should be, and you match it against it, it will become really evident to you that what they're tracking their KPIs. Like how does Lyndon's team, like on a country CEO, what is their actual goal per month in terms of new community members? What's their goal per month in terms of new investors who have not yet invested? What's their goal every month of those people who were not invested, who are now invested, and the money they're investing? Like, they're different metrics than what they actually will give you right now. But if you just told them tomorrow, hey, you got to go out and build community, they're going to go, I didn't even know how to do that. Like, what does that even mean? Right? There's no even place for someone to just join a community within Wealth Migrate. And they'd be right. They wouldn't be at this point. And you go, yeah, good point. So you can't just go and tell them that's what they should do. You need to actually say, how do we build a promotion plan that actually means that we will build a community and that we will put these things together? And if you're not ready to actually separate out the team into the development team and the tech team or the platform team, and I think you should do that. But if there's political reasons to not be able to do that at this point, at least create your skunk works, for the one that's going to actually allow you to really multiply out the tech side, to say this actually shows the multiplier for the tech company, separate from everything else that's happening. We can take 1,000 strangers, we can get them on the system, we can get 100 of them to become investors, we can then turn over $1 million, right? Like people go, oh, then that's your multiplier. Cool. Let's go out and do that 100 times over, right? That's what they want to see much more than, look, we just found another development and we just wanted to fund it, right? Because that's not actually the multiplier that you're looking for in the first place, but it's what most of these people are focusing at right now. So that's what I would say. It's like, hopefully just from what I shared, you can already be just saying, well, I don't have to take everyone. I'll take the people that really get it, and I'll just create one of these promotion plans off the back of that. And of course, you've got Suraj on your team that can work with you as well. He knows this back to front, right? So he can also say, well, here, like when you say, here's a promotion plan, Suraj, he'll go, no, it's still missing these bits or so on. He knows what that looks like already. But you get that core team together, and then you say, right, let's deliver this off the back of it. When people see the result of that, then they're actually going to say, well, we should be doing this as well, right? And then slowly, bit by bit, the other bits of the company then come on board, working off the same basis as well. That's the way I would do it. Does that make sense?
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, cool.